already.
I gave a lot of it to the government.
Yes, it's recording. Yep. And how many people are online? 2. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to reconvene the meeting from May 18th, 2026. The budget meeting agenda is over there on the table. If you are going to want to do any public comment this evening, we do ask that you fill out the forms on the table and get those turned into the basket at the end. So to reconvene the meeting, let's do a roll call. Committee Chair McNamee, here. Vice Chair Gassner, here. Committee Member Dominguez. Committee Member Holliman, here. Committee Member Irvine, here. Member Lewis. Is she online? No, she's gonna be late. Okay, Committee Member Maynard.
Here.
McCloskey. Here. Reed.
Here.
And is it Robothan?
Oh, it's Robothan.
Robothan.
Here.
Okay, so we have 2 members not present. Okay, so presentation of the revised proposed 2026-27 budget. Did you want to make that? Oh, sorry, yes. I would like to ask for an amendment to add point 2A, which right after the presentation of proposed budget, we will call for public comment. And then after public comment, we'll do budget committee discussion. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we adopt the agenda as revised.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, so presentation revised proposed. Is that this packet?
Yes, it's the packet that was posted.
So it's what's in paper clip.
Okay, so budget committee members, the revised proposed budget was posted online. So the first revisions are reflected in the budget message as requested by the budget committee. It absolutely makes it a stronger budget message. All of the revisions are in red. And you can see that it's been amended to reflect language requested by the budget committee on May 18th. We added language further constraining available operating cash and resulting in an ending fund balance deficit of $67,565 for fiscal year 24-25. Then the budget message goes on to discuss that the audit reflected these challenges, including the auditor's note for a going concern, stating, quote, there are conditions or events considered in the aggregate that raise substantial doubt about Madras Aquatic Center Recreation District's ability to continue as a going concern for a reasonable period of time, unquote. And as noted by the auditor, the only way to address this challenge was to reduce expenditures. The resulting cash flow challenges at the start of fiscal year 25-26, and then it goes on to explain the cash flow challenges and the decision to temporarily close in the summer. I believe those are all the amendments to the budget message. Are there any questions or changes that the committee would like to see?
Thank you for those changes.
Yeah, it makes it much stronger. Then we move on to the general fund budget worksheets that are in your printout in front of you. Because of the timing and the wrapping up of our April financials, I went ahead and amended the projected year ends as of May 20th. So you can see that those were the projected year ends were revised. In addition, the board adopted a budget amendment on May 18th. And so this worksheet, these worksheets all reflect that amendment, those amendments as well. And then you can see any changes to the proposed budget in the middle column over here under revised proposed, and they are in red. And so the beginning fund balance is now at a 0 because of those projected year ends being updated. And you can see that here in the current fiscal year, the board amended the property tax revenues to reflect higher than expected collections. And At the bottom of total revenues of that first summary page, you can see that the total revenues are up 0.19%. That's a reflection of starting with 0 as the beginning fund balance instead of negative 2,000. If we continue down to the next page, general fund summary expenses, you can see there is one change to the revised proposed budget, and that was moving the $20,000 from contingency up into administrative expenses under the elections line item as requested by the committee. That increased the administration materials and services budget by 13% and overall the materials and services budget by 4%. The other change was a reduction in contingency to reflect moving those funds up. And so you see that the overall change to the general fund is 9%, which is really just changing that beginning fund balance. Those are all of the major changes to the revised proposed budget. I'm happy to answer any questions that committee members have.
So, excuse me, the original page in our packet, would that be page 17?
Are you looking at the general fund?
Like if we do a comparison as to what was, yeah, so does everyone have these? So if you go to page 17. I'm looking at projected year-end expenditures. In our previous packet, it was expected to be $1,029,065. Now it's listed projected at $1,041,834. So what was the main change in 18?
So the change is that the board members adopted an amended budget that increased budget authority in both personnel programming and in materials and services under legal expenses administration.
And you plan on spending those by the end of this month?
By the end of June, yes. Oh, it is June, yes.
Note for the record, Janelle Lewis is present now at 5:39.
Thank you, June.
Thanks, Jean. Does any committee members have questions? Okay, hearing none.
Go back to the agenda.
Sorry. It's just my pen.
It'll be your, the public.
Well, were you gonna go through, I'd like to continue going through the. So we had 6 action items at our last budget meeting. Do we want to talk about those now, or should we wait and talk about them in the budget?
Talk about that.
Sure, let's talk about them now.
No, okay, so item number 1, that was an action item.
That was the 20,000.
Yeah, so we asked her to move 20,000 for the election. So which page is that on in these new materials?
So if you go down to administrative expenses, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages into your budget worksheets.
So it's this page. Complete page.
Oh, this is not in the right order.
Originally, it was on page 17 of our original packet. There was 40,000 in contingency. So in the new revised, we should see 20,000 in contingency. Yeah, it's right here. Went from 40 to 20. And then is where, and then the 20,000 should have been added to
Elections.
Number for that word.
Yeah, contingency is 1-99000. And it goes from 40 to 20, and then we're looking for the other side of the 20.
You can see the same 20 if you, on that same page, if you look above under administration. Where it says see detail administration.
Perfect.
And it's on line item 1-73017 under the administrative expenses. I've got it pulled up on the screen.
Yeah, I don't think that page got printed.
Sorry about that.
I have it in my packet.
Yeah.
We got our phone.
It is.
I wonder if. It didn't print those, so I apologize to the committee if you don't have those pages. I have them pulled up on the screen if you'd like to see.
But it's there on the summary page.
Yeah,
Okay, so does anyone have any questions on the 20,000? So confirming that that adjustment was transferred, the next one, we already went over the budget message was the second action item. The third action item was training outline.
Yes, so you all have on your tables in front of you a copy of our mandatory in-service plan for 26-27. You also have a copy of our summer in-service plan. So the first 2 pages of that in-service packet are the summer in-service plans. I have it pulled up.
Brittany, I'll go make a couple copies of this.
Oh, thank you, Jean. So our summer in-service plan includes basically 2 days of training, 2 half days, 11 o'clock AM to 5 PM. If we finish early, then we send them home early. We do our learning outcomes are state required annual training, understanding professionalism expectations, learning new procedures, protocols, things like that, and refreshing our certification skills. And for those that need recertification, they come in on Saturday and do their test outs for both the written exam and the in-water exam. And so you can see we do paperwork. We go over how to request time off. We reinforce that, yes, your parents should be telling you when you're taking time off and you need to make sure you let us know, because sometimes they're like, oh, all of a sudden we're going camping. And that they're responsible for any shifts that they've been scheduled for. We talk about shift replacement, and then we review job descriptions, our employee handbook. We highlight things in the employee handbook like cell phone use and uniform expectations, and things that we've noticed over the last few months have been getting kind of lax. Then we review professionalism. We do some role playing on patron services and how to communicate effectively with people on deck, and how to know when to call over a supervisor to help out if they feel like they're working with a patron that isn't hearing them or needs something that they can't provide. And then we talk about our mandatory in-service expectations for every month moving forward, but particularly in the summer. Then we take.
When the mandatory in-service expectations, is that like the 4 hours
That's 4 hours a month, yes.
additional to this?
Yes, correct. Then we do state mandated policy reviews. So we go over our environmental hazards policy, which includes smoke and heat related illnesses, and our bloodborne pathogens response plan. Then we take a 15-minute break. Then we get into EAP, which is our emergency action plans, procedures, where they can find them, you know, what their role is depending on where they are in rotation. Then we talk about off rotation duties, that it's not a break to grab their cell phones. They're doing locker room checks, lost and found, life jacket assistance, first aid assistance. We talk about opening and closing expectations, properly hosing the deck and picking drains, and we do some hands-on activities with that. We talk about making sure we walk the deck in the morning when the lights go out sometimes. Then we do another quick 15-minute break and we dress down for swimming, and then we get into completing our American Red Cross lifeguard prerequisites, which includes swimming a 200 or 300, treading water for 2 minutes without your hands, and then doing another 50. Swimming in a minute and 40 seconds from the shallow end of the deep pool to the deep end, grabbing the 10-pound brick at 8 feet, and then swimming back without using your hands to the wall. And that's a timed event, 1 minute, 40 seconds. And then we review our CPR skills. And then that's what we do for that first day of review. The second day is more scenario practicing. So we practice procedures, protocols, and processes. We don't just talk about it. We actually get on deck and we practice how we respond to a bloody nose. How do we respond to a fecal incident? What do we do if someone in the spa slumps over? What's that rescue look like? And we have the staff practice coming down off the high chair or the low chair or the lifeguard room to respond to those different types of incidents. Depending on the scenario and what we cook up as management team, they might be calling 911. They might just be assisting. We might go into multi CPR response, or it might be a 2-person response. If we're doing a morning or an evening, you know, we just have different scenarios that we go over depending on the types of activities that are happening in the pool. Then we're going to do a 15-minute break, and then we're going to continue our scenario practice, and we're hoping to do a live scenario with fire EMS and what it would look like to hand somebody off. And we want to do a scenario where the patron does not survive. We've been to some training lately that talks about, we always have these sunny scenarios where we hand them off and then they live, and we want to make sure that our staff understand that that may not happen. So we'll be doing some of those scenarios with the team and then doing debriefing, hopefully with fire EMS. And then we'll go right into practicing our rescue skills. So we have different rescues for different types of in-water situations. So there's front-facing, active and passive. Those are 2 different types of rescues. And then deep and shallow water are 2 different rescues as well. Rear-facing, active and passive, spinal extractions, both in shallow and deep water. What to do when we have to do CPR from in water, because CPR is different when you pull someone out of the water versus if they're on deck. And then our out of water CPR, and we practice for both adult, infants, and children, because there's different responses for all of those. So those are that's the summer in service. Essentially, we're required to make sure that everybody's ready for the busyness that summer brings, and that all of our skills are up to date and ready to rock. This entire packet that you have in front of you is a risk management tool. There have been facilities that have been sued for neglect and not responding properly. And the first question that defense asks is, what is your training plan? How much are you doing with your staff to keep their skills up? And we want to be able to say, if that scenario happens, oh, we're doing all the things that we need to do to ensure everybody's ready. And then, like I mentioned on Saturday, we review and prep for the certification test for anyone that needs to be recertified. This year, we have 8 recertifying on that day. And then we have another 4 that are doing their full 2 existing staff, 2 new hires, hopefully, that are going to be doing the full lifeguard class at the end of June. The next part of your packet is our draft mandatory in-service plan for the rest of the year. We're still working on this because we just finished working on our summer plan that we're going to do in the next couple of weeks here. So what this shows is that we have annual competency categories that the American Red Cross expects us to be ready to demonstrate: surveillance and prevention, water rescues, CPR, AED, emergency action plans, spinal injury management, communications and teamwork, physical readiness, professionalism, and leadership. These are the different areas that we work with our team on. Then we separate it out into what we want to work on quarterly. We do quarterly lifeguard audits, and so we focus on particular skills each quarter to make sure that they're ready and competent in these different areas. So the first quarter is prevention and rescue readiness. The second is emergency response and care. The third is advanced response and professional development. And the fourth is readiness assessment and continuous improvement. And then you have 2 pages of all of the different skills and training areas. I'm not going to go over all of these. You have them in your packet. This is a very operational document. It's something that our team with our lifeguard instructor and our supervisors and head guards work on. When I look at this, I think, wow, we expect a lot of our staff. And thank goodness we haven't had to use a lot of these skills frequently. Our most common issue is bloody noses. And then the second behind that is kids that are in the leisure pool and over in that area where it kind of gets deep in the middle. And then we have an active rescue. We haven't had to do, we did have one infant choking situation in the last few months. And it was the first time a staff member had used back blows and learned a lot from that scenario. So the other thing that you don't see here is when we do have a situation that we respond to, the lifeguard instructor and I go back and review the footage. And then we talk about what we could have done to prevent something, how we can train on it better. And then we wrap that into our quarterly in services. So it's not a static, these are the things we're going over in June, July, August, September. It's fluid and it depends on what's happening in the facility and how we identify where we can continuously improve.
Courtney, and just real quickly, what's your maximum capacity?
So our maximum bather load is 265.
And when you have 265, how many lifeguards do you have?
We've never done, so right now we staff to 160 with 8 lifeguards.
160 was 8, and what's the average age of those lifeguards?
16.
I guess my point would be training is fairly important.
From a liability perspective, I think it's one of the most important things we do.
So what's best practice for the pool?
Best practice is 4 hours of in-service a month at minimum. And then doing the annual in-service as well.
Are these dates? Are these the days you're actually proposing to do in service?
We are doing in-service on those days.
Okay, it says 2025, so I wasn't sure if that was like the last year.
No, that's me being in 2 different years.
No, I totally get that.
It's 26.
But I guess I'm curious because it's Thursday and Friday from 11 to 5 both days. But you're only open to the public for swimming 4 days a week, and 2 of those are gonna be in service this week?
So
Or
we
you
don't,
guys not open?
we're not, so we haven't transitioned to our summer schedule yet. And so we're open with our normal school year hours that week. So we reopen at 4 o'clock, so we know that we'll send some staff to man the pool during that 4 to 5 period, but otherwise we're not serving anyone during that 11 to 4 time period for those 2 days.
Oh, okay.
And we plan it that way, so they get out of school the week before, and then we do our in-service, and then we start the summer schedule by the weeks.
Are you gonna go over these?
I can.
So there's also 2 pages in our new packet.
Yeah, so a question was asked about the different certification options, and we talked about that there's 3. There's the American Red Cross, StarGuard Elite, and Ellison Associates. And so Peyton went in and just did a quick summary of the 3 different options, and you have that in your packet. The thing that I think is most compelling about sticking with ARC is at the end where it says Oregon Pool Certification Programs by Agency. And StarGuard is used by Ben Park and Rec, City of Ashland, and City of Hillsborough. Ellison Associates is used by a couple of water parks in the city of Astoria. The bulk of aquatics organizations in the state of Oregon are using American Red Cross, and that's because it's the top of the line. It's the best. And they have the lowest reporting and oversight requirements of the 3 agencies. So we keep our records and we make sure that we document what we're doing just in case we have to prove it at some point, but we don't have to report back to American Red Cross on what we're doing. Whereas the other 2 options have higher operational reporting requirements.
Thank you for providing that information.
It's interesting that the cost is pretty similar across all three,
Yes.
but the other two are every year.
Yeah. We call them the bougie ones, comparatively to the American Red Cross.
Is there any additional questions on the training? All right, moving on. The next action item was the negative fund balance, which Courtney already presented. So that fund starts now with a 0 fund balance.
It's on the first budget worksheet you have. Should down.
So everybody sees the 0. The next action item was page 13 of our packet, had some old dates. So it was this document now has 2026 dates.
That's the draft resolution.
I couldn't tell, did she pull it up? I couldn't tell if it was nothing a T there or if it was. Okay.
Well, we have a little pause here. Let me go back. I think that's my starting. Now I've had to do a lot of homework, so I don't know what I'm missing and what I've got right. But my understanding is that the Oregon minimum for lifeguards is 1 for 40 people.
Correct.
So, but your staffing is quite a bit more than 1 for 40 people.
We staff, so it's 1 for 40, and we need 1 on each pool, and we need 1 off so that they can rotate them. Because you
Well-
can't sit on a lifeguard chair for more than 30 minutes. You have to have a break from scanning.
I just see that we sometimes have a single lifeguard sitting between the two people. This is what concerns me, the personnel costs. It's like this is the big bugaboo here, it's personnel costs. And I told you, said before that it's anecdotal. But my experience, I see folks that aren't doing too much here when I'm here swimming. So you just have to issue that as that's an observation, may not be accurate, but I'm issuing it as a challenge. I'm wondering, considering our circumstances, if we need to be, it just seems like it's almost luxurious, the number of people that we have here.
So we sometimes have 1 center chair person if there are less than 10 people in the facility. The glare on the lap pool is really bad. And so it's really important to have 1 on the high chair and 1 on the low chair, particularly once we hit 7:30 and the sun's coming in a certain way. So we do it for safety and we do it for liability and risk management.
I'm just gonna add this and then leave it alone, so it's not like I'm beating something to death here. But I wanted to ask, since I became aware of the issues, I've just been asking people before before being selected for this. Just ask people in general, chatting about the circumstances, there's different perspectives, quite geometric. But what I have heard, and so it's not just me, I've heard it from other folks that our employees sometimes are idle. So.
Thank you, Bill. I've raised this issue many times. When you're staffing for 160 bathers and you're staffing 8 lifeguards, I can't get the math to work either. So I too have raised this issue. I raised this issue in our last budget committee as well.
So I'm not crazy.
You're not.
All right.
Well, what I saw was that when the lifeguard was not in the chair, they were not on break. They were walking and checking the locker rooms, walking the deck, doing all kinds of other responsibilities that may look like idle time because they're walking around here. They're not sitting in a chair, but they still have to be here. Unless you don't think that the staffing is correct where you have to have 4 or 5 lifeguards with the replacement that's off.
Yeah, I
The
had,
problem is that we keep hearing that you have to have 8 lifeguards,
Well, excuse me,
and that's.
So our budget, let's keep in tune with, for the budget committee, we can't handle like management decisions.
day-to-day.
The board had decisions, so from a financial perspective, as we're analyzing overall budget costs. Personnel is the largest component of the budget, so if we have to scale back. Or if there's not means of, having the salary line items at those amounts. I mean, if you look at this notice hearing, does everybody have this sheet? The LB1, so this is what goes in the newspaper.
what's the title?
It's LB1, so this will get, in June of every year, our local newspapers back pages are full of these from every jurisdiction. The counties, the cities, the fire department. And it really illustrates like the buckets of the budget, which is personnel services, materials and services, capital, debt, interfund transfers, etc. So if we look at it, lists actual amounts from 24-25. Yeah, so see what she has pulled up, and it's that center section, the financial summary.
Oh, right here.
So, actual personnel in 24-25 was 596,000. The amended budget for 25-26 is 450. And what's being, if we choose to go with the budget as is right now, it's at 510.
And the increase you see from the amended 25-26 current budget to this proposed budget is adding summer programming back in. Someone had asked a question about the cost of personnel in 24-25, and we went back and looked at it, and we actually didn't use many part-time seasonal staff for land-based programming that year. We used full-time salaried staff, and then a couple of our what we call our core 5 staff. And so what you see in the budget in 24-25 reflects one additional full-time salaried staff member that's no longer part of the mix. That was fully responsible for all recreation programs, mostly land-based, because we had a supervisor over aquatics.
And so Courtney, just so I understand a little bit too, if you have scheduled a certain amount of lifeguards based upon how many people you think are going to be here, and let's say it just ends up being a slow day, do your supervisors allow people to go home and be on call? So if people aren't needed, we don't continue to have those people here.
That's right. And we've noticed that our 1 to 3 open swim on Saturdays is way busier than our 3:30 to 5:30. So we've scaled back scheduling for our 3:30 to 5:30 to 2 less lifeguards, knowing that if for some reason a bunch of people show up, it means that our deck supervisor will have to get in rotation, then I become the deck supervisor. And so we've got some plans in place that we can still make that with. That's why it's so important that everybody's cross-trained.
Mm-hmm.
So Courtney, can you scroll down on this? So one thing that's interesting is like when you look at your total FTE numbers, you were at 9.5 in 2024-25. Then in the budget is 7.25 currently, correct? Because then it bumps back up to 9.5.
Yeah, I mean that's
the lifeguard change for
that's the seasonal. I mean that's all the new seasonal hours that we have for the summer.
Okay, so you're going from 4 FTEs to 7
in programming.
And that's this summer, the intern positions, the FTEs or full-time?
That's seasonal, part-time lifeguards and swim instructors. Under recreation programs.
So that 3 difference is really a multiple number of people just filling part-time spots.
Yeah, cause didn't you say that we had like somewhere around 20 lifeguards and we were hoping to beat 25 to 30 by the end of the summer? Yeah. So that, the way that FTE is increasing is just in the number of staff that you're allocating.
Yeah, it's the number of
For the schedule.
hours, yeah, because remember, one FTE is 2,080 hours.
Okay. So we have my corrected resolution.
On the resolution, where it says subject to the general government limit, we're missing a T. It's just,
Thank you.
I thought it might have been a printing it, but it looks like it was on there too.
No, it's probably hidden by a.
Like a box.
Okay, the next action item was on page 12 of our packet, is this one. So if there was questions on this value of 25,000 versus 15,000.
Yes. We had originally budgeted when we did the first blush of the budget, we budgeted 25,000, and then because we signed a service agreement for the HVAC and boilers, we backed that off to 15,000. So the budget includes 15,000 for architectural services to start getting ready for the locker room accessibility project.
What page is that?
It's on the facilities summary. I don't
27, I
have
think.
the. I'm sorry.
27, I think. Maybe.
It's this, the contractual services line item in 72002.
27 in the.
And what else, what's included in that line item is landscaping, mission linen, HVAC boiler, service, fresh air service, security, IT services, and climate tech, and the architect.
Okay, any further questions on that? Edith? Okay, hearing none, and then the last one was legal on page 20 of the original packet. We had discussed at our last meeting that it's account 1-73019, whether or not 12,000 was gonna be adequate based on a hearing. That was what, May 28th?
And on last Thursday.
And so the results of that hearing are, we don't have to budget more? Or-
So the lawsuit was orally dismissed on the bench and they're working on the order of dismissal. So the presumption is that all of those legal fees will be expended before the end of June.
Will there be legal fees for the recall and like going out on, there won't be any at all?
No, just the cost of the election.
Okay, so that's through our 6 action items. Do we have any more further materials to present before we go into public comment?
There was one. It's on this, on the proposed budget, the revised sheet, I think we missed an N in, Ms. Urban's thing.
Thank you.
Yes, there is.
We have a small staff company following this meeting. Yes.
Okay, is there anything further in the materials? Okay, hearing none, let's go into public comment. Alexa, do you mind administering the sheets in order? Do we just have one?
We just have one, Nikki Carson.
And Nikki, I will set a time in 3 minutes.
All the questions.
Okay. Go for it.
For the record, I'm Nikki Carson. I just wanted to give a quick update on the recall. I did turn in the petition signatures on May 27th. We needed 776 for each. We got 925 for number 1, 938 for number 2, 945 for number 3, and 943 for number 5. The county clerk has 30 days to verify. Once verified, 5 days after that, the board members can resign if they choose. If not, then it will go to the election after 30 days. Thank you.
Okay. And we asked if you did want to do public comment, you have to fill out the paper. Is there anybody, just for anyone else that wants to say any words
Related to the budget.
related to the budget? Yeah. Thank you.
I'll say something.
Okay, yes.
I'm Jane Aikman, and maybe I'll just mention that when you were going over the safety training, that just brings back such memories because I used to work for the city swimming pools, and that was one thing that I was in charge of. So, you know, so when you guys are kind of talking about the ratio the guards to patrons, you know, the 1 to 4. I just want to say that, you know, every facility is different. And that means that you have different needs. So 1 to 40 is sort of the baseline, but that doesn't mean that you don't need more at different times, depending on who's using the pool and what they're using it for. And then like Courtney or somebody mentioned, like where the sun is and how the light's hitting the water, and all of those things are variables and factors. So the 1 to 40, that's a baseline, but you have to cater to the conditions at your facility, and that makes a big difference.
Thank you. Okay, hearing no other public comment, let's move on to item 3, which is budget committee discussion and deliberations. Is there any, so we have the one green sheet change, which was moving the 20,000. If we have any other additional, I can track the changes, and that's why I have my laptop open, is Courtney has the spreadsheet where we can make the changes live and pick something off at the end.
Somebody online to speak. I don't know if anybody.
Oh.
To chat. Just thought I'd ask.
Sorry, thank you.
Oh, Trudy wants to speak. You want to?
Yes,
I'm
let's
sorry.
backtrack. Sorry, we missed online. We are going back to online public comment. Trudy, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. My name is Trudy Haugen for the record, and I just have a few things to bring to your attention. The first thing is, it sure seems like we should see a difference in FTE from 23-24 and 26-27 because there is 0 land-based recreation now. And I know there was a complete position removed because of that. So it's kind of weird. It's still 9.5, even though that whole land-based recreation is gone. And the pool doesn't even have the number of hours that it serviced at that time. I understand changes in regulations, but when an entire program is gone, I would think the FTE would look a little different than it does. The other thing is just, I guess, a charge for the board is that it appears that the policy manual needs to be reviewed, and the actual, some of the benefit packages. I think a district that's failing in the way that it states in the audit, having 9 holidays, it seems excessive. I believe it's 4 regular and 5 floating. if the pool isn't going to be open on holidays, we probably don't need floating holidays anymore, and we probably don't need 9 holidays. I know, I mean, yeah, some employers give 3, some give 5, but 9 seems very excessive. Also, you're giving 8 hours of sick leave a month right out the gate for employees. And the standard's 40. So maybe 96 is a bit excessive. You know, I know people that get 3 days because they get vacation too. I get 40 hours. I realize I don't work for a government, but I think this one's failing. I also, it seems like the being able to roll over your holiday or, excuse me, your vacation pay and cash it out. I don't think at times when there are financial issues that businesses normally allow cash outs of vacation. It's use it or lose it. And being able to roll over 150% seems like a lot of liability for a business that is struggling. So I just would like to really encourage the board to take a look at those. Cell phone stipend, it's about twice the amount that normal businesses are. And you're only open how many hours right now, and how much staff do you have? So maybe cell phone stipend might be something. And I only say this because you have totally, removed land-based recreation. So it seems like we shouldn't just be cutting services. We also should be looking at our benefits as well. Also, health. I don't think people should be able to opt out of their health benefit. Take it or don't. If you don't get any cash in your pocket. Many businesses do that.
Sorry, we need to wrap it up.
No, that's fine. I was
Okay.
done.
Thank you, Trudy. Okay, so I wrote down 5 points brought up by Trudy. Is there anyone else online? Okay, hearing no other, we'll go back into budget committee discussion and deliberations. Anyone want any green sheet changes or any items discussed that we haven't done already?
I went home and when I got these, I re-listened to the last budget committee meeting and just kind of made some notes, and I liked the question that Mr. Robeson was asking of, is there somewhere here that we can save money? And so I don't know, this is my first budget committee meeting. I don't know how that usually goes, but if we want to start in a specific spot.
I have a question, Courtney. When you were developing your budget, was your staff involved in this? Mm-hmm. So during that, developing the numbers, did you do any exercise like, hey, it would be nice if we could get, X amount reserved this year, like savings to get there? What could we cut out as non-essential to get us to that? Because throughout this budget process, we're starting the general fund with a 0 fund balance. Just to be conservative, like it would be nice to see a value there, but the way that we're currently budgeting, we're probably only going to have potentially 20,000 at the end for the ending fund balance. Sorry, is it still? Is that on page 17?
Yeah, it's 30,000. And then there's 20 in contingency that the hope is we don't have to spend. And so, yes, we have conversations about our goals for savings. And I have it pulled up because I've got the Excel spreadsheet pulled up. We want to get 5% of earned revenue or 3% of total revenue. And our team actually was really excited about this budget because we're ending the year with potentially $50,000, which has not happened in a long time without grant support. And so it's kind of interesting to us that the budget committee is having this conversation and these concerns when this is probably the most responsible budget that the district has had in a long time. And ultimately, our goal is to try and get to an ending fund balance of between $400,000 and $500,000, because then we won't need a tax anticipation loan. And 10 years of savings at 3% of total revenue is $379,000 based on this year's budget. 10 years of savings with the proposed budget gets us to $525,000. And so our team felt really good about this budget. We are safely operating the district in a responsible risk management approach that has not always been the case with this facility. We are staffing appropriately for our EAPs, our emergency action plans, which has not always been the case for this facility. And we have a number of adults who are able to work so that we don't have 17-year-olds running the facility, which has not always been the case in this facility. And we're setting aside money into our maintenance reserve fund in this budget, and we're ending the fiscal year 30,000. So we can't solve 15 years of financial challenges in one. We can't solve it in 5. Our goal is to solve it in 10. And now that we've right-sized our aquatics programs and schedule to the money we have, we're confident that this is a responsible budget from a staff perspective.
Do you guys go over that again throughout the year at your staff meetings? Do you guys continue to like brainstorm ways, like do you like touch on how you guys communicate about that as a staff, like quarterly or something as you're seeing patterns? I know like you go by Phil, right? Yeah. To your point, like the water side now takes 2 full-time lifeguards. We used to have a slide attendant that was like a 14-year-old. Now we can't do that. But like some facilities, it's the OHA regulations and our commissioners.
That's, I guess that's my concern.
One at the top and one at the bottom.
Oregon Health Authority about that, and that's not what they told me.
And I've asked them to give it to me, to tell me based on the slide that we have, and sent them all the dimensions, and I've not heard back. And until we have definitively in writing that we don't need to do that, we are taking the safe, risk adverse approach, and the approach that our lifeguard instructor recommends, which is you need someone at the top and the bottom, because if someone gets stuck in the middle of the slide, someone at the top is going to have to shimmy down to them and then get them out safely.
I have to respond to this. And I want to say that you guys did this objective appraisal. I may to select you to do this. I may not be much, but I'm the best you got. You had been an objective test. That's so. I'm trying hard here. But and I want to say this too first, Frank, because of our little interaction last time. The nobody strikes me here. This is just my personal appraisal, my take on you. And when I met you, I also sort of expressed something like this. It's my impression that Matt, nobody cares more about the Matt and is more heartfelt about it than you, of all of us. I think that's how the take I get. And also from your career, I know how important it is for physical education, et cetera, and how crucial having stuff like this is. You understand and appreciate that more than maybe everybody else here. So believe me, I'm empathetic. I would feel it would be extremely unjust, considering how dedicated I am to this, to have a recall of me. I believe me, I'm completely empathetic. And I also don't see anything nefarious here going on with the board. But this just seems like a bizarre world to me. You've got no reserves, you've got $2 million in anticipated expenses. It's as if you're not paying attention to that stuff at all. We've got discretionary spending. Why are you buying uniforms, for God's sakes, when we got this situation where we're headed to bankruptcy, we're headed to the facility closing. It's as if we're not paying attention to that real fact. So you've got hardly any reserve. It's not responsible. That should be a priority to increase that more. We're looking at 2 million. I don't know why this wouldn't have been anticipated a long time ago. The entering reserves were in 2021 were $200,000. And we had in 23-24 we had half that, but still 100, maybe 120. Well, if you're anticipating 2 million, why is that money being spent? Back then, why weren't we saving and building our reserve at that point? So
If I can comment quickly on that, I believe that there was that large reserve was because of the COVID grants where the pool wasn't open
2021.
and the grants were coming in and funding it. So what that COVID did was kick the can down the road to where we are now. And I wasn't on them.
So,
let me, if I may, can I just finish this really quickly, because then I'll think quiet about it. In 2016 and 17, I have that we had $300,000 reserve. It's been nothing but, I was doing okay, and then we had 21, it started going down considerably at that point. But the other thing that is these, I don't think that the revenue is realistic. I think that we should be chopping off. The 270 doesn't seem like, why are we thinking we're gonna get $270,000? It's a 4-day schedule. And also the grants, anticipating 100,000 grants, it seems like a figure out of the air. I don't see how it's realistic.
Courtney, are the grants for capital improvements or are they for operating dollars?
Capital improvements.
So has the board considered doing like a special purpose fund separate from the general fund to segregate grants from operating?
No, that conversation has not happened.
So some jurisdictions, Oregon budget law allows you to budget by fund. That's why when you look at our resolution, the thing that we've, this. If you were to look at this at like Jefferson County or city and address, there's like 60 funds. Because they all track their buckets of money separately because you don't want to say, oh, the general fund's responsible for all this. Here at the pool, because it is a smaller entity, they have general fund and they have maintenance reserve fund. There's nothing saying that they couldn't have like a special purpose revenue fund for grants. A lot of entities do it when they do large infrastructure upgrades. But it's just a way for the board to say, we want to track our grants separate from the operating fund. Another tool that jurisdictions use is they set like reserve policies that they actually like hard say, no, we have to have, say our reserve policy is 10%. Well, that 10% threshold is set aside and there's no wiggle room if it's a board adopted policy. So like if the financials are presented for a month and it's like, hey, we're not meeting our 10%. Well, it's like, okay, well, you're either overspending or you need to show efforts of reducing your expenditures. Like that's a management tool to put a hard line in the sand saying, don't go over that. But those are things that us as a budget committee, we don't have authority to say, allocate a special purpose fund. The board would technically have to pass a resolution to create a new fund before we could even put money in there. So there's ways that if this had started back in January, February, some of these efforts from the board could have been implemented, but we're at the table today being presented with what we have authority to do is we can do green sheet changes. So that's, moving money from line item to a different line item. We can, we're here this evening and we're hearing very important topics of ways that, cell phone stipend, that might save what, $500? That's one thing, but like in the whole grand scheme of things, a lot of those little dollar amounts do add up to a
Yeah,
bigger bucket.
Exactly.
And maybe that's what I'm hearing is I'm like, okay, if we are having a going concern in our audit report, what action items has the board done that kind of governs the steering of the budget? Is there reserve policies?
There is a financial management policy with the reserve policy that the goal is 3 to 5%, recognizing that it takes time to get there.
So there's no like, when it says 3 to 5%, there, it doesn't say like of the
It's
general.
not a hard of earned revenues.
When
And so-
was that policy implemented?
I think the board adopted it in November.
Of 25?
Was that in addition to what the board adopted in November?
It's included in the financial management policy. It's the last. I'm picturing it's the
Yeah.
last page piece of it.
And it was a brand new policy at that time?
No, it was a revised policy, but I think they had originally adopted the financial management policy in 24, perhaps.
Is that in our packet?
It is not. It is on the website, the governance.
So that would have been like a great thing to put in a budget message if there was a policy. So we don't know if it's 3% or 5%. It just says 3 to 5 based on earned revenues or like gross revenues.
Yeah, so this would be the roll up of these. It's this, no, it's the same as this.
Appropriate level of services and state and business operations for during foreseen events. Will endeavor to maintain general fund unassigned ending fund balance that equals at least 2 months of operating budget.
Yeah.
So let's compute
Which is
what is
100
our,
I wanna say it's like 125 or 150,000.
Yeah. Well, Brandy, I'm not quite sure I understand you. Did you answer my questions? Because I didn't really. Yeah, I didn't connect the two.
so I would have loved to have seen this in my budget packet.
Oh, okay,
Because
yeah.
this is what should steer
Yeah.
what we're presented.
Exactly.
And so if we're, budget committee is an advisory committee to the MAC board through the budget process. So the authority we have is just, that's why we're here. That's why we bring things up like this is, well, this budget, we're nowhere near
Right.
that reserve.
And the district never has been.
But then why put it in
Well,
writing and have it adopted?
And we had 300,000, 150,000 up to 2021.
Those are carry forward funds,
Yeah,
and
but-
grants and other projects that are allocated, so
But
they're
it-
not unallocated.
But it functions, it functions in that way. I mean, you have it there to cover, if anything happens in any of those areas, you have that money covered.
No, it's allocated. So it's not, it's funds that's sitting there for a specific purpose.
Yeah, but one of the specific purposes could be to,
No, because they're grant directed, or in the case of the 16, I believe it was an energy loan that the district received that for energy improvements. So those funds were dedicated to specific
Yeah.
purposes.
and my point would be, if you had problems with your electricity, that could be used for that. If you had to, if there was something you needed to do, isn't that a
No.
valid point?
No.
No.
Oh.
No, basically a grantor will give you money saying that you can spend this on this particular item. And in the audit financials, you can see allocated versus unallocated reserve balances, and anything that is reserved is basically money that we've received that is earmarked for a specific thing based upon the document of the grant. So you can't just spend it to cover operating expenses. It's usually for some type of capital project. So when you see those bigger cash balances there, they have been related to longer funded capital projects that were spent in the following year.
Thank you. I still don't know why there would be overlap, but let's not take more time with it, but thank you for telling me.
Sorry, I'm just giving the policy right now.
The reserve, you're supposed to be putting the reserve balance. So let's say this summer you've included in the budget X amount of dollars for lifeguards and you end up not having to spend all of that money. The process for that would be then you would have a budget savings, you come to the board and say, I would like to reallocate those funds to X or Y. Is that correct?
Typically, what we would do in that scenario is we would just see a bigger ending fund balance at the end of the year.
So you wouldn't necessarily reallocate them if you had savings in that area.
That's correct.
And from prior budgets, have you had savings in their personnel or do you usually run under?
So up until this year, we've always had savings. Because the budget has become so tight, we don't see as many savings.
Okay. And kind of related to some of the questions related to holidays and vacation and things, which employees are eligible for those type of full-time benefits versus others?
There are 3 full-time employees.
And so those are the only employees that get paid holidays and things like that.
Is that true for sick time?
So for sick time, our part-time seasonals accrue sick time consistent with what the state requires. And it's a calculation percentage, how many hours they work.
It's 1 hour for every 30 hours worked.
And then the 3 full-time accrue at that 8 hours per.
I'm sorry, is that in our personnel manual about how part-time accrues differently than?
Yes.
What happens on days, like I noticed you're closed on Saturday this week? How's that reflected like with your salaried employees? Is that you take personal leave for that day?
You either take personal leave or you work on another day that you wouldn't otherwise work. You know, you make up those hours elsewhere.
What would we do? Well, let's just say we would agree that it's more realistic to think that we're gonna be pulling in 240,000 rather than 270, or 230 rather than 270. Yeah, just a more realistic anticipation of wages, of income that's coming in. I mean, shouldn't we be looking at $30,000 or $40,000 that we can be cutting?
I'll just chime in. I am new to reviewing these financials, but in my experience in the last few months, it seems that and Courtney says that she purposely under budgets for the tax money coming in. Right? Like they say that we expect a 5% increase and you budget for 4%. And so when we review our monthly financials, it seems like when we look at this part of the fund, we see that we're not bringing in as much as we want to in programming, but oh, look, we're bringing in more tax revenue than we planned. And so
Well, I just think
that's a monthly thing that we seem to be covering this time of the year. From my perspective, I don't know.
Well, in total though, all the revenues we're projecting $270,000.
Yeah.
I mean, do people think that's realistic? I mean, is it responsible to use that as the figure?
I have concerns if that's realistic based off of how the last months have gone.
Well, last year wasn't it 180?
And that was with the pool closed in the summer.
Yeah, I think there's a balance there too. The facility is owned by the public. So if we really want to be really conservative and let's get that money back and so that we have a good holdover for next season, then let's close the pool this summer and save ourselves some money. And then we'd have a holdover for next year. It doesn't make sense. We have a responsibility to the public, and there's a balance. I agree, there's a balance. There's a balance between remaining fiscally responsible and also keeping the facility open, having the pool open also. So, yes, that's where you have to rely on your professional, to put that budget together in a reasonable fashion. How did it come out this year? How did it come out last year? Can we expect her to pull that together for this year too, so that we can keep and remain fiscally responsible, but also keep that facility open for the maximum amount for the kids and the rest of the community. So there's a balance.
But are you suggesting though that it's better it's better not to close in the summer than later? So aren't we headed for closure with this budget? That's my take on it, that we're headed for closure. Because the anticipated revenue.
So Courtney, are we headed for closure?
I don't believe so. I think we've got an operation that fits our budget. And we're gonna be saving, and then the board is going to be having conversations around sustainability and capital funding and those things in the coming year. We've been operating on a year-to-year basis for 18 years.
And
So,
nobody likes that.
no, I mean, nobody likes that.
We would all like to get out of that situation, but based on what's happened in the past, some of the things that we've been helped, over the years, and we've kind of had to, and particularly, I think in the past, people have kicked that can down the road, and that can's gotten pretty big. And so we can't dig our way out in 1 year, but hopefully, in the future, if we can get some things passed, we can quit kicking that can down the road. We seem like we do have a future. It doesn't seem like we're gonna go bankrupt this next year. And I feel like we still have a responsibility to keep this facility open. Once this facility closes and those pumps quit turning, the maintenance stops. I don't see this facility ever opening again. So it's important that it stays running, but we have a responsibility to keep it open as much as we can and run.
I don't think it's not an either or question though, is it? Right,
Well, you're talking about cutting a lot of money
well,
to get that comfort, and no one here has been comfortable for a decade.
yeah,
And the reason I got involved in this is because I wasn't comfortable when I first came into town. That's been a long time ago.
no,
So, none of us are comfortable, and I understand why you're uncomfortable. I was the same way when I first got involved, but we aren't going to cure it in one budget year, and in the meantime, we need to keep it open.
well, let me ask you this. Do we need new uniforms to keep it open, for example?
Are you gonna have 14-year-olds buy their own uniform?
Yeah, you bet.
Can we talk about the uniform?
So how much does that save us a year?
Well, it saves you a heck of a lot.
5,000, apparently, 5,000.
And the political ramifications are big. It shows you that you're really doing your best to budget.
I'm sorry that, I mean, uniforms are important, number one, because they are an earmark of safety in this building. And so having uniforms that are easily identifiable for people are important. And they're not buying uniforms that are platinum or anything like that. They are t-shirts and regular swimsuits. And I agree that it's a lot of money. However, this is a roadmap. if they don't need to spend $5,000, this entity is not going to spend $5,000. And this is a roadmap, and the board and Courtney are charged with driving down this map that either we approve or we don't approve. But I guess that's our charge, is to say that this is the roadmap and then leave the governance of this entity up to the board and the people who are here.
I'm just being political sensitive, I think, to this. They're pretty snazzy looking, you know, it's not just issue. You know, we need to save money. Just bring a red t-shirt home from home, wear it. You know, use a marker, but it says math on it. That shows the public that you're trying to save money.
So if I could also just say that uniforms isn't just t-shirts, it's also hip packs, whistles. It's the devices in our packs, it's gloves, it's all the things that the staff carry on them and are using for their job. You know, all those things are included in that.
So let's get back to, but like, ultimately, this is the budget resolution. If we are to look at their policy that they adopted, and actually they revised it December 25th, 25. Sorry, December 2025. So that policy does say 2 months of reserve. Here, your budgeted, your unappropriated reserve is 32,000. Yeah, contingency is not considered reserved. You're gonna need 216,000 in that line item to meet the board's policy. So taking all, like,
It's a lot of damn you.
it's a lot. Yes, but I'm like, if we can like chip away and maybe like say, hey, we at least wanna see $50,000 in that one line, and yeah, you still need 50 plus the other 20.
It's entirely appropriate to chip away at it when we're that far behind.
We are very far behind, and at the end of the day, like, are we all, 32 is so far from the policy that it's, like, I don't know. Don't adopt the policy if
Well,
you're
the
not.
policy is a goal, correct? It's
It
not-
says 2 months.
Says
It says the district will endeavor to
Endeavor.
maintain general fund unassigned ending balance that equals at least 2 months of operating budget of the general fund.
That's a goal.
And it's a responsible goal because you have expenses that come up that you're not aware of, and that's why you have it. I mean, that's what you do responsibly, you have that money there so that if something happens, you're able to respond to it.
So like, I've worked at entities where they were on very strict budget cuts, and they did non-essential exercises with the staff team to be like, okay, we got to pinch every penny. Where can we not send? And those are things that throughout the course of the year, if those actions, if we're at this table next May and June, which a lot of us will be because of our terms, and it's like, if we again don't see any chipping away to get that number bigger, we're not making any traction.
But this is an improvement this year with the 33.
No, last year it was.
Being that we right now aren't planning on any
Last year it was an
Reserve.
even 30,000.
in the plan.
So if you look, yeah, it's their budget, it's at 30,000.
that's not what it
and now
will
it's
be.
at 32.
Is
So-
that what it will be?
No, that's the budget.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is the actual is less than the budget. So again, they're putting it in the budget.
It might not even have,
But it-
might be zero.
It may be zero, it's the point where that number, like, our goal would be 216,000 and we're at 30.
Yeah.
We're not, and so like, looking through these, let's not address let's look at special outreach and events, account 171043. You have $5,000 in there. You have, $4,000 in professional development. Your last year's number, you said year to date's gonna only be $1,300. Advertising is 7,500. Well, sometimes in like non-essential circumstances, you just freeze advertising, or there's ways that you could come up with easily $10,000 out of the total 34,200 appropriated.
And some of those line items you just identified have been board directed decisions that are driving what's in the budget.
Can you say the same about the 1% cost of living increase? I was surprised to see that. That's certainly not something we would consider in revenue years like this, and with budgets looking like this, we would never consider a cost of living increase. But that 1% is board directed?
Correct.
We discussed
When was
it
the last
before,
time we did
discussed
one?
it as an option, but I don't think that it's.
Is it reflected in this budget? 1%.
There was no COLA given last year. 0. Was it the
When
last
was
2
the
years?
last,
it
yeah, I was
zero?
like, when was the
Yeah.
last one? We haven't given one in a couple of years. 2, 3.
But you say a COLA 1%, there's still are individuals still getting step increases?
No, we don't have step
Pay-
increases.
There's no pay increases at all.
No.
Salary has been frozen for 2 years.
Yes, there's not been a merit increase or anything. The only increase has been minimum wage based on the state.
So you redid the salary schedule, which I saw on page.
The page down, page 42.
There you go. So wasn't that
Sure, if there's a
updated? So
different schedule.
did some positions?
No positions, the one position that changed was the minimum wage position, which is deck attendant or slide attendant. And then the executive director position was reduced. Those are the two changes in that.
So if these are board directed values, what's special outreach and events of $5,000?
So that is for May Water Safety Month, pumpkin float, Easter egg hunt, and other holiday special events, because the board has asked staff to try and do some different things. And if we find that, as we get into the year that we need to prioritize, the staff is gonna prioritize saving money to do the Water Safety Month, because it was a real success with the 6th graders, and we'd wanna do a community-wide event.
So does that have offsetting revenue that comes in when you partner?
Yeah, it has sponsorship revenue.
This,
Yeah.
So that would be an example of like a special purpose fund. You would track that separately from the general fund.
I mean,
If they're wanting to be like, hey, we do all this really cool stuff over here, but it doesn't take a dime of your tax dollars.
Okay, good, yeah,
It's
right.
special purpose revenue for those special purpose, like actual costs. So maybe after reading their policy, maybe the board should look into segregating it out. So there's no question to, if taxpayers come and be like, what's my tax dollars being spent on?
Yeah.
It's so much easier to just hand them a general fund and not include those other revenues.
That sounds smart.
What, is there anything else in this budget anybody has questions on that you think could scale back?
I didn't realize until Jean and I met recently that the cell phone stipend was $50 2 times a month. I thought it was $50 a month. And that's in here 3 times. So I don't know what you know, what other places pay for that, but my question is it meant to pay for their entire cell phone bill, or is it meant to pay for the portion that they may have to use for work? Cause that's $1,200 times 33.
And staff is planning to evaluate that and present it to the board sometime this summer, or early fall, looking at going to district issued cell phones instead of doing a cell phone stipend because of movement that lots of public entities are making toward that, and whether or not that'd be a cost savings. And then I think that that's the time that the board would evaluate that.
Well, when we talked on, was that Friday? You said that the stipends were set during the budget process. That's why I was bringing it up now.
Well, yeah, I mean, so if you wanted to cut the cell phone stipend, you could certainly budget to not have it, or I mean,
I would just ask the budget committee. I'm only one opinion, but if like what other people are experiencing as normal, and
I mean, I'm on call 24 hours a day with my job, which is a government entity, and I get a $45 a month cell phone stipend.
I get zero.
Well, my phone is subject to public record searches, so I'll trade you.
Public organizations. That's why it's so different.
So are some employees getting $100 a month?
all the 3 full-time staff who get cell phone stipends.
So some cell phones don't even cost $100 a month.
Right.
So
What
they're
is-
making money off of it. Like if they get a track phone that's $40 a month, or a Google phone that's $29.99. Why are we paying them $100 if their cell phone's actually only $30? That's the point. It's not the take names out of it, like we're budget committee. It's like, well, if we're,
But if they had a phone that cost $150, would we pay them $150?
no, you just
No.
pay them the flat stipend. It's their
Right.
personal choice on what plan. I have 2 cell phones.
Right, that was my point. If you aren't going to pay the cost of the phone, then you give everybody the same stipend.
Yeah, or just get a Mac issued phone.
Yes, yeah.
And
that
do
makes it
away
all go
with,
away.
yeah.
We
away.
did have that at some point. There were like specific phones. We also used to have like a mobile hotspot that was on the phone bill to take to events for internet access at like for registering people for activities. I mean, it's like evolved over time is all I'm saying, that like I think in the past it was a little bit different. And then recreation when you're up at the fields
Yeah.
before, I mean, there's a lot of things that have changed since the cell phone policy stipend thing was probably developed, so.
So 3,600 is what total cell phone stipend is, and if the phone was an issued max cell phone, that would just come out of which line item?
We'd probably change the cell phone stipend line item to say cell phone.
Where are you currently
Plus-
paying for internet?
That comes out of telecommunications and facilities, but we would want to allocate it to programs or to facility.
So when you call somebody on business, is it come in or is it other things?
Oh, it depends on what the situation is.
Okay,
And it's the 3 full-time staff who are on call to respond to issues.
well, being as ancient as I am, we used to have just pagers and they would call the pager and put a 1 for call home. or
They don't do
two.
that anymore.
You know, we're talking about saving nickels and dimes here, and if you want to continue that conversation, you continue the conversation.
So we're looking at, right now, we have a 32,000. Can we get that number up to 40 or 50? Would at least show that we're diligently trying to get to that value.
Is there a choice here? I mean, if we're looking at $2 million of anticipated repairs, why is it even a question? It should be every penny that can be saved should be saved. And it's politically savvy. You want to show that you're actually doing the doggone best you can.
And I agree with that. I've worked at places where we've done RIFs and it's like, sorry, we only have X amount, we have to do a reduction in force, and it's
Oh, yeah.
no question asked, it's.
So I want to back up to one of your concerns, and I do apologize if I misquote you, because sometimes I don't hear well. But your comment was that you didn't think 270 was an appropriate amount to budget for revenue?
Because I think last year.
No, was that your statement?
Yeah,
Okay, so, and you're saying because of last year, which was an anonymous, however you say it.
anomalous.
Yeah, anomalous year because we were closed during the summer. So what other, and you said you've done tons of research and homework and all this kind of stuff. What would lead you to believe that 270 is not an acceptable number?
Well,
Can you pull that up on the
it
screen?
may be that I wasn't thinking, I was looking at 180, I think, well, it was 180, I didn't account for the big COVID. If you look back to prior years,
So
the,
right there, Frank, so see the 270 number and how we have 130? Well, if we're like, let's just say user fees, aquatics, 130 is the number we're projecting for this year to only bring in 83.
Because it was not open in the summer.
Okay, so then the
So it's no-
two above that, membership punch cards, facility revenues, those are at 45 or 54,049, and we're budgeting 70 for both.
Because it was not open in the summer.
But going back, look, it was 80,000 and 22, 78, 23.
And some of the things that you guys don't see is attendance is up across the board by significant percentages. If
Memberships are up.
memberships are up, time, even though we are open 32 hours or whatever it is, pool time per person is up.
but I think back here too, you'll think, the earlier year, those were when we were open 5 days a week, I think, those higher figures. I mean,
Well, you know what Mark Twain said, there's two kinds of lies. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. Okay, so we're gonna, you know, it's a concern.
Yeah.
But this is all what we're doing is pretty much a gamble and a guesswork. Because if one of those pool liners tears from some kid jumping in and his long toenail cuts it or something, then we're done. That's $500,000 right there.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
so
Jean.
going back to the cell phone stipend, did I understand correctly, that is something we should do right now tonight? Is that make a motion of the budget committee to reduce the cell phone stipend to be monthly at $40 a month?
We can put the amount of the budget, so like, okay, $40 a month times
three.
3 people.
Until such a time we could do the separate phones.
So that would be a green sheet change where we reduce total cell phone allocation from $3,600 among cell phones.
So it would bring that line item to $480
On all
on all three.
funds. Okay, so that's one change.
So do we have any feedback from the SDAO reimbursement for lawyers' fees?
Yeah, won't come till after the kids.
Oh, next
It's
year.
in the budget for miscellaneous revenue next year.
Oh, okay. It's in there.
Mhm.
Okay.
So there is a line item for board expenses, and I believe it was related to board training for $12,000 on line 173016. Is there any way to maybe adjust that, or is that a fixed cost based on?
You can adjust it. I mean, for that, those funds were intended to hire a consultant to help with developing the sustainable financial plans, whether that's bond or local option levy or whatever that. So, I mean, it certainly reviews it.
Yes, I would suggest that maybe we make that $10,000.
So reduce it by 2.
Yep.
Okay.
Or less if somebody else, I don't have a good idea of what. I'm not saying the cause for doing that is incorrect, just maybe thinking about a bargain.
I'm making these corrections live so that we can get to what the budget. number
Well,
is.
in the past, like, I think that's where we tried to use like the Oregon State students to do some research into the heat exchangers and everything.
Yeah, that's a good.
So we've like tried to get lower cost for some of these things. So maybe there's like, we've also used like an intern from COCC to do some of our marketing work in the past, like as part of their college project. I mean, there are certain things that we've really tried to find the lowest possible cost option. So I think in that regard, maybe it could go lower than 10,000.
Do you have
But
a
then it-
suggested amount?
I was thinking even 8.
Okay.
If I liked it.
Okay. Anybody else object to changing that to 8?
So we're at 38,734 is ending fund balance with the cell phone stipend change and the reduction of the board expenses.
Okay, so page 20 of our original packet. Below it's technology expenses less than 5, you have $5,000 in there.
Are you under administration or facility?
Administration.
So that is to replace the front desk computer, and then also if the membership card printer dies, to replace that. And that is the bulk of that 5,000. It's expensive. I want to say that machine is like $3,800.
And it's essential that we have
Membership.
Well, why do you anticipate it breaking?
Because it's original to the building and it's starting to act up.
Glitchy, you're talking about?
We're limping it
Weird.
along. It's the printer that prints out the card.
We limped along a boiler for like years.
Well, we can keep limping it along. I mean, we could go to laminating cards if it does die. So that would be an option.
It's just little things.
Do we have a laminator?
We do. We do.
So if you cut that out, then you said it's like $3,800 for the card reader, but the person could still get a computer.
I'd like us to keep at least 1,200 in there so we can replace that front desk computer.
Does that work for everybody?
Okay, so reduce it to 12.
We're at 42,534.
And will you go back to this special events? I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what that's called. What, and maybe I just totally missed it, but what expenses are associated with those? Or did you say that they're offset?
They're offset by sponsorships.
Okay.
And it's kind of like, Frank, if you want to hold, it's like these things that we hand out for events and activities.
Right.
But they're generally covered by sponsorships.
Okay.
It's just you have to have the corresponding expense with it.
Okay, so somewhere else it said that's.
Yeah, the revenues are up in the.
So can I ask who paid for the bottles, the little pack that went out with the first aid kit, pint bottle? Who paid for that?
So Brightwood. I don't know if it's sponsored, they're all
Safeway.
Brightwood, Safeway, Identity Zone, and Madras Marine sponsored all of this stuff.
For the bottles that were out here.
Yeah, for all the things that are associated with that, yes.
And then the sheriff's department added their own
Things to it.
bracelets to the top of that day, we were passing them out.
Yeah.
So back to the administration budget, contractual services is, projected through the end of this year to be 33,186.
Yep, so 23,000 of that is the audit and 20,000 of that is our technology services contract.
So have you done an RFP for your auditor?
Yeah, we went out twice this last year and got no responses.
And didn't SGAO advise that we just keep our same one because it's a really difficult time right now to
Yes.
get a new one? Do you know anyone?
23, I mean, auditing is expensive, but like for the size of this organization, what's the county paying for their auditor, like 60, 70?
Probably, yeah, and we did go up our fee 2 years ago. We got like 8 responses, but I know the smaller organizations are having a much different
I can
experience.
tell you the libraries is 24 or 25,000.
The learning center is about,
You're here.
the learning center is about 25.
Right.
And we have not had a successful RFP for audit services, but so.
Start doing business.
I don't wanna do that.
Can we go to the aquatic center facility? Budget. So. It looks like, those bottom three lines where you have max sales, supplies, furniture, technology. What did you buy? So. Do you like? It was 8,200 this year. Are you gonna need 3,500?
So we had a grant this year for that 8,200 to buy tables and stanchions. This 3,500 is to, if we get a grant to replace the chairs in here that everybody's sure very comfortable sitting in.
So that's part of that $100,000 of revenue.
Yeah, so if we don't get the grant for it, we won't spend it.
And I know that I keep talking about the special purpose fund, but another tool that entities use is you don't budget for grant revenue until you actually get the grant revenue. And so some entities just have it in their policy that we don't budget for, because the actual Oregon budget law does say that you shouldn't budget for things that you are not like confidently gonna get.
So part of why those couple of things aren't in here is because the board's first board meeting isn't until the end of June. And we feel pretty confident we're gonna get grant funding and we want to be able to move on as soon as possible, particularly for the heat exchangers. But our grant writer is 80%. The way that we've looked at it is if we're 80% sure that we're gonna get something, we budget it. And if our board meeting was early in July, I wouldn't have put it in the budget, but because it's not until the end of July, we wanted to make sure that we had budget authority if we do get it.
Last summer, when the tables were purchased, didn't you just bring a budget adjustment and say we got a grant, we're purchasing tables?
Yes.
And the board approved it?
Yeah, there wasn't the timing issue, especially like I said, with the heat exchangers, that we wouldn't have budget authority for the whole month of July to move forward, and we need to be able to put that stuff in and do that stuff in September. So that's why we have it in the budget. And if we don't get the grant, then it doesn't get spent.
How have we addressed your salary? In this?
So it's under administration and it assumes the contract continues as is.
Can I ask what's happened with that, Diane? Does you guys met to discuss this?
Cora and I met, and there'll be a board update after the budget committee meeting.
Well, I mean, it should be informed by the policy. I mean, 60 days, my understanding is 60 days. If you're a rich district, you can handle 60 days. What I've seen generally it's like 35, 45. I've seen for smaller ones. But you really don't want less than 30, right? So I think that you want to, what happens there with salaries, that should be informed by the lack of reserve.
Are you asking to reduce the number?
Well, I thought that you guys were working on that. Yeah, I would. I definitely would.
Would agree, we're a facility that's only open to the public 4 days a week and has 9 full-time employees.
It just seems so exorbitant, the whole personnel cost.
Do you want to propose like?
Do I need to make a motion? Or what?
No, it's just a green sheet change. So it'd be a discussion item. Like if that's a percentage across the board, or if it's a flat dollar amount.
Well, I think that what we're paying Courtney is a very large percentage of the personnel cost is my impression. I don't, it seems like I knew that at one point, what it was. I lost my track. I'm thinking, I don't want to say something that sounds ideological, so I'm sort of compelled to do it, that these institutions end up serving the people that work in them rather than the people that are paying the taxes. So, it seems to me, you think, I'm thinking being politically sensitive, here. You have a median income, household median income in Madras of like $61,000 or something. And that's a family income. So I think it should also be informed by that. Of course, you're thinking of the whole thing, the skills, ability, training, et cetera, but it seems to me that we also consider the people that are paying the taxes, how much money they're making to be able to pay our executive director.
So I guess I would feel a more appropriate, because this is a small district and I don't think it's appropriate to target one person over somebody else. And if there is a general idea that we should reduce personnel services, I think I would feel more comfortable with a general, please cut 5% or something like that, as opposed to targeting one person. Second point I want to make is that an executive director who can put together something like this and who can deal with the amount of detail that is required, you have to pay for that. And this district has had problems when we have paid directors a more moderate rate, because you are paying for experience, you are paying for expertise. Now, I just want you to have that in the back of your mind, that when I started on this, it was right after somebody had stolen a bunch of money from the MAC because they were not paying somebody who had experience and knew what they were doing. And there is a huge cost to that. So while I agree with you, we need to make sure that our compensation meets standards. At the same time, this is a very important place with very complex systems and very complex financials. And the current executive director has grasped this very well, better than any other executive director that I have been around since I've started being involved here. So I just want to be cautious in that in a way, we have to be sensitive that we need a professional to be doing this level of work. Now, again, let's make sure that we keep it within a market. So I would feel appropriate if somebody wanted to make a more general reduction based on a percentage as opposed to targeting one person or another.
Are you suggesting that hourly employees be included in that as well, Melissa?
And I guess as a budget committee, if say you want to say, I would like to see personnel costs reduced by 5%, then you push that back to the board or to the director to appropriately allocate that based on their needs and their goals and vision.
Well, I think back to my point, where I was going with the slide is, if that's 2 lifeguards, some pools just offer the slide for like an hour at the end of an open swim. I know it's not going to be popular with the public during a rec swim, but like, there's not always someone on it, and you have 2 lifeguards watching a slide for 3 hours, getting paid the full salary, and there's not always someone on the slide. So there's little things like that would cut personnel as far as lifeguard hours that could help quite a bit with like the cost of the rec swims and how many people have to be in here for the 160. I also was a lifeguard. I had to be on call. So I had to be called in if there were too many people and someone needed to come in. So I had to stay in town back where I lived, or like, and then there was like a backup if you were on backup, a fee for that. There's different ways around like the shifting parts of having to have too many or not enough lifeguards in the building, or running a slide, not running the slide, not having the rope swing in the morning if just the lap pool is open. I mean, otherwise you have the lazy river, you have to have another lifeguard. Back to your point into what Jane was saying. This is a unique building that has people in so many different spots, but I think that's another way to think about, it's not going to make the public happy in every single swim that we have to change some of those things, but if it's what we have to do, I think the RIF has to affect more than just like uniforms.
Well, so 5% would amount to 25,512. And like, it doesn't have to be a hard number in your budget worksheet, Courtney, if you scroll to total personnel, like, she can actually just put like a negative 25, 512 in the personnel category. So it's not targeting like one thing. But this is just an example of like, the points that like Trudy brought up, the 9 holidays. You could do a reduction, the board could say, oh, we're only gonna pay for 3 holidays. That difference in salary pay is probably quite a bit over the course of the year. Another one is like the sick leave, just go to the Oregon minimum requirement. Don't do the 8 hours of sick, so things that you're paying out, but not getting the benefit of the body and the, like.
Mhm. No, and I think sick time in general with Oregon paid leave, we all have these older accrual mechanisms in our handbooks that are more generous than they need to be because now there is a mechanism for people to be paid when they are out sick. So I do think adjusting for things like that is an option.
Yeah, and we don't have the balance sheet in our binder. What is your accrued liability for your payroll?
I can pull up as of April.
Because the board's gonna probably have to phase out some of these personnel policies, because if somebody, like, say you have the cash out.
You can't change that right now.
No.
So as of the end of April, accrued vacation liability was $8,400.
And that's for all staff combined.
That's for the 3 full-time staff members combined.
But you're not counting holiday pay in there. Those are things that could be reduced.
But this is just accrued vacation.
And sick is not, or well, sick doesn't.
It doesn't,
It's not tallied until we take it. But
So that 8,400 is just vacation.
that they can cash out, how much per year?
So it's up, you could, there's a certain amount, remember how much it is that you have to leave in your bank. It's either 40 or 80 hours and you can cash out anything above that.
And the policy allows to keep up to 150%.
Year over year. So a staff member could choose to cash out and just go to their minimum 40 hours, or they can just keep accruing it. It's up to the staff member.
So is asking the board and Courtney is, like when we're talking about reducing payroll, 5% is a significant amount. Is that reasonable? Is 3% more reasonable? You know, I guess I'm trying to get an idea of what a reasonable amount would be.
I mean, we budgeted to the schedules that the board adopted. So if there's a reduction, that's gonna mean a commensurate potentially reduction after looking at other options, obviously, but if we can't meet that amount, then that could mean a reduction in hours in the school year schedule. The summer schedule is set.
Okay. All right, so that number's in there. If we go to page 19 of our packet, this is the aquatic center facility budget. Can you go back over the 61,500 budgeted for contractual? So it says 7K landscaping, 8K mission linen.
That's everything that's in that line item.
Do we have, like, what's this landscaping?
That's
Can we?
landscaping.
That's part of our contract with the school
It's
district.
part of our agreement with the school district that we made to the landscaping.
So that's lawn service monthly also,
Right.
along the mowing, the weeding.
I mean, is there any, so if you look at the prior number, if you scroll over to the left, it's anticipated to only be 29,000.
It's because we added the HVAC boiler service contract for 20,000, which is that's new. And then
The architect.
this 15,000 for the architect. So if you took those two things out, it would be.
So the 15K for the architect, is that just to do as built for what you're wanting to, like, go out and apply for grants?
That's to prepare for the locker room accessibility project so that we can go out for RFP. I mean, it's to get it ready so that we can move on that project.
Okay, but like to do an RFP. So you're paying the architect to structurally redesign, like,
To evaluate what needs to be done.
and that wasn't already done like a few years ago?
It was, and then a project occurred to buy some time, and now we need to go back in and take a look at it again and see how. If additional damage has been done, if it's holding up, we need to evaluate it. And put together what would be required in order to fix.
So is that a ADA issue? Like, I know that the locker rooms have been a problem. Is this like this has to be done or else we aren't compliant with something, or there's mold growing, or what?
It's structural.
It's a structural issue, and when we
The
did the
walls.
interim project in 2020, 2021, they said that it would buy us 7 to 10 years of the walls not crumbling.
It wasn't built to plan originally. So the different materials were used.
So we're
They're
getting
not.
close to that 7 to 10 years where we need to be planning.
Until you have money to fund that project. I know it's good to plan that ahead, but you could probably pull that off pretty good.
Well, so we have a grant writer on that's working on that.
Okay.
So
Well, that makes
it'd be
sense.
helpful to have that completed. I mean, if you wanted to reduce it to 10,000, perhaps we can do it within that amount.
Let's do that. Reduce it to 10.
Reduce it to 10, so we come up with another 5.
And how does everybody feel about some of these changes that we're making? Because this is,
Can this be the last one? Explain that, you understand it, I'm not quite understanding.
I like that we're going through this because we're like talking about ways that we can shave dollars off here or there. I mean, at any given point, the board can make a budget amendment in July and change all these back. It just, the number went from 32,000 to 73, just based off a half hour of discussion. So the more that, like, if as a budget committee, we're saying, hey, you got a policy that says 2 months. Next year, when we come back for our budget committee meeting, we want to see closer to that 2-month policy, or you adopt a different policy that's, ideally, I would love to see a special purpose revenue fund that tracks all grant stuff separate from the general fund, because then if you're trying to go out for another levy in a year, you're going to be able to tell taxpayers, this is exactly what your money's being spent on. All this other stuff, that furniture, that was all bought with a grant. So just preparing for what's ahead, it improves transparency tremendously. And, it's not like you're doing some other jurisdictions do it. It's probably it's too late in the game to do it this year, but maybe a goal next budget cycle is we budget a special purpose fund.
well, I mean, so I think the bigger thing is the 5% for the payroll line item. Not everyone has had a comment on that. Does everybody feel comfortable with that change?
Well, actually, I wouldn't know if it's even feasible because I wouldn't know what the dollars are
I know.
for reducing the holiday pay.
Yeah.
Or the
The
sick
sick
leave,
time.
what would that amount to?
We're gonna have to crunch all that.
And I didn't, when we started the discussion, I didn't understand that it would end in a reduction of hours. I don't know.
It
I
could
think-
be,
yeah.
it could be anything. It could,
Like I
we're
said,
asking them to reduce personnel, so it could be a reduction in force, it could be holiday trimming, it could be lifeguard restaffing the lifeguards so the slide's only open a certain amount of time. In a way, by giving a percentage, you're allowing the board and Courtney to come up with the best way to do that. But we are in a way reflecting the idea that we want to make some savings.
Yeah.
But I don't want to tell the board or Courtney exactly how to do that, because like, you are running the pool. And I think our job is more to be like, this is the map.
Yeah, so it comes down, I'd like to see reduction in benefits, like through the
Yeah.
method of pay. Maybe it's the medical, the way the employee covers a portion, the MAC, like you can look creatively at ways, 25,000 is. It seems like a lot, but like there's ways that you could,
Why was 5% suggested?
and it's a starting point.
Yeah, so if somebody wants to
What does
suggest
3%
something now,
look like?
3% is 15,306.
What is 7.5 look
More
like?
doable.
7.5 is too much for me.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
25, or the 5% at 25,000.
Okay, so that's fine. So this is the maximum that you wanna go.
There are some things that are fixed, that you can't really do anything about at this point. You have some things that have already been earned, you have contracts, so.
Well, and we tried to expand, we have hours on like Fridays and.
Right, so you don't want to dive into hours.
Yeah, that's my fear is that it'll, as she said, just turn into a reduction of hours, and I don't think that's the intent. Because that turns to a reduction of earned income.
I think we're gonna have to start and look at all the little things that are, how much that adds up to first and figure it out from there.
So Corlin, would you feel more comfortable with like a 3% or what would you, how,
I
like,
think 3 looks really attainable no matter what. 25 seems like, or like the 5% seems like it might be a stretch. So I don't know if we can have like flexibility.
So if you do a 3%, that brings the ending fund balance to 62,841. If you go back to the 5%.
And that includes taking the 15 down to 10.
Then it's at 73,046.
I would say
We're not gonna know
I'm,
until they
it wasn't
start
that I'm
working.
uncomfortable with that percentage, I just would. I guess like it to be on record of what the intent of the budget committee was of where those cuts are being made. So it doesn't turn out to be cuts in public facing hours,
I think,
I
I
agree with that.
agree with that. I think trying to come at it from a benefit standpoint, holiday pay, thinking about,
things that are
Like mine.
above the standard of.
yeah,
Yeah,
thinking about the slide, that type of thing. Because I don't think any of us want to reduce the hours of the pool. I'm very happy that we are not closing this summer.
Does the pool, so I know we're at 2 hours, if we want to take maybe a 5-minute break for Courtney to print out a clean copy of this, because we have to get our motion. Are we comfortable at this stage of the meeting, or do we want to think it through and have an additional budget committee meeting?
Well, probably that. Like have we gone through all the discretionary sectors?
We have not, but we're at 2 hours, and just if we could,
Okay, so you're not stopping there.
just a break.
Can
Is everybody good with a 5-minute break?
Do you want it at 3% or 5% for the reduction in personnel before I print it out?
I propose 5%.
I propose the 3%.
3.
I feel more comfortable with a 3%.
I don't know that I understand the impact enough to say, so. It's fair.
I think
I say
3 would be
3%.
fine. Yeah.
So 3%.
Thank you.
So 5-minute break.
Yes, let's take a reconvene at 7:38.
Thank you for wishing for all there. What would you do for fun?
Granddaughter and
Oh, yeah. 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 I was actually last. You were on the east, west side.
It's about 30 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, you did. Oh, yeah, so you can do that.
Yeah. It's really weird.
Yeah, yeah, but you can get that underneath.
Yeah.
There's stuff there, yeah. I usually stay on the east side of the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ladies are kind of. And I remember she was tired.
So you guys think this is a new city or something?
They are. Courtney is the regular board meeting next.
Yeah.
Very powerful. I mean, six miles. I agree with that.
How are you? I mean, it's a lot, isn't it?
It is, yeah, you don't realize what I'm
Realize behind us just getting, having the
Okay, so it's 7:47 PM. We're gonna reconvene the budget committee. So what's before us is a revised budget that includes a handful of changes. So to reiterate the changes, the cell phone stipend is going to be reduced from $1,200 per budget to $480 per budget. The second is reducing board expenses from 12,000 down to 8,000. The next is reduction of technology expenses going, not purchasing the $3,800 printer. So that's $1,200 to replace the front computer. The next one is a general 3% personnel category reduction. So that can go, right now, it's not one specific program, it's all benefit, all across the board. And the intention is that that's to be used for like reduction in benefits like sick time, holiday pay, those things first. We don't want to see a reduction in hours.
I'm gonna just say exclusive of reduction of hours, everything but that.
Okay, everything but hours. And then the fifth change was the reduction of the locker room RFP going from $15,000 to $10,000. So in total, this was approximately a $30,000 aggregate between all these changes, bringing our reserve now to $62,841. Is there any additional changes, or are we content with?
I want those uniforms dealt with.
Yeah. I have questions about the uniforms, just looking at the actuals from 2022 through 2025. And then they were, like 1,200, 1,700. So I just wonder are we getting something different, or why the big jump from 1,700 in 24, 25 to 5,000, or even 3,400 the actual this year?
They're really nice looking polo shirts. That's what they are. They're also really nice looking.
So we're expecting a lot of turnover in lifeguards in June of 27. We haven't bought lifeguard, head guard t-shirts in a few years. And because we've been wearing down this big amount we bought, so this was us kind of replenishing the amount we have so that it would work. If you guys want to reduce it, I just don't. My concern is that we want to make sure we have enough funds to have our packs, our whistles, all of those things. So I wouldn't reduce it more than maybe you do 2,000 and bring it to 3,000.
Is it based off of like a number per person, or like how much it costs to?
So the more
Form a
shirts we
guard?
buy, the cheaper they are. So we try to do bulk orders. Instead of buying a shirt for each person when we hire them, we have a stash of the shirts. Because it's cheaper to buy 200 of them than to buy 20 of them. So it reduces, we're saving money by doing that. But if the committee wants to cut here, we don't have to make that order this time. I just want to make sure we have enough funds that we can properly uniform our guards that we're going to be hiring to replace the ones that are graduating at the end of June of 27.
T-shirts don't, if it's a t-shirt, they don't cost that much. They don't cost that. A
They
whistle.
weren't just t-shirts.
They're really nice polo shirts. Better than the one I.
We're talking about that, there's equipment.
Yeah, we're talking whistles, and whistles are $2 a piece.
And micro shields and.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm wondering, let's get at least $2,000 off that. Whistles cost $2, don't they?
No, they
Yeah.
cost $15 a piece. We have to buy a certain kind that is water resistant, so they last a long period of time.
Do they go with the leftover?
Yes, they do.
But if they lose their whistle, don't they have to buy their own?
Yes, they do. They only get one issued.
And the lifeguards are wearing t-shirts, aren't they? I've seen
Yes,
this
they are.
red
I'm the
t-shirts.
only one that has polo shirts
No, I saw
years ago.
No, I saw a guy. I saw one young fellow looking really snappy, wearing a nice red polo shirt.
It was not an issued polo
It
shirt.
wasn't. Oh, it looked good.
Okay, so the consensus, do we want to reduce that to 3,000?
I thought that was from.
Is there a consensus?
Yes, sorry, the audience is just really,
Yes.
is kind of distracting sitting on this side, I'm having a hard time focusing.
Okay, so we want to wrap up this meeting, but we gotta, this thing, little owl has to hear us. So audience, please quiet. So reducing uniforms from $5,000 to $3,000, is that the consensus of the committee?
Yes, and I would say, you know, if it comes down to it, prioritizing the equipment, you
Yes.
know,
Of course.
yeah.
Okay, so then that puts us at what is the new number?
64,841.
And the one, and so that number up like on line 9 on that sheet that you're looking, the 1,365,000 hereby adopts the budget for fiscal year.
That's old.
That's old. You want to
okay.
get this, this is the number.
Okay, I was just wondering for, it goes to the sample motion, so I just want to make sure we have the right number. So it's the 1,380,000.
Yeah.
And can you tell us what's in the advertising plan?
So that includes a postcard mailer and then Pioneer and Spiliai ads.
I personally am not a fan of postcard mailer. I feel like it was very expensive and if we're looking for places to cut, I think postage is a good place.
Yeah, advertising let's just say I'm new to learning about advertising and it can sometimes be rewarding and sometimes not so much. Like I mean, it's sometimes this gets back to the board governing their ongoing costs. They could have, protocol of anything over a $500 ad has to go before the board if they're really wanting to scrutinize like cost. But a print ad, I mean, was the postcard like a coupon or so they physically needed something? How many of those did you get back?
So at last count, we were at 3% came back.
So was it really worth it in the cost of it to coupon the?
It was a trial run.
So would you not do it again?
Do we still do the movie theater ad too? No.
Yeah, we cut that a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking
think-
historically with advertising and 22-23 was that
It was a lot.
17.6
Yeah, we
and
cut a lot.
23-24.
We
So-
used to do a lot with
Yeah.
radio ads
So-
and all sorts of stuff. but
Yeah, so this
we
year's
also-
budget's at 75.
This is one of those things that like, we've gotten feedback, like you guys aren't advertising enough to help improve who's coming in the store. And so we'll cut it and it's gonna swing the other way in 6 months or a year. We're gonna get a letter like you guys should be advertising more to get more people.
Yeah.
It just
I
flips back and
understand,
forth.
yeah, the need for advertising.
Just not the
The
postcard.
postcard mailer, I don't think it was very spotty on who it got delivered. I think Courtney did a great job of looking into it and it was kind of just at the mercy of the post office. And so a lot of people didn't get it in the areas that we were expecting them to. And so I just think if we programmed an event where we were handing out those coupons or, something that is more sweat equity, I'm not suggesting that we don't do a BOGO coupon or just find a way to do it that doesn't include such an effect.
So do you want to bring it down to 5,000? Do you want to bring it down further? Whatever you guys want to.
So it looks like there's 2,000 in administration for advertising and there's 7,500 in rec.
The 2,000 for advertising and administration is for meeting notices and LB1
Okay.
and all those publications related to the
Okay.
budget.
Great.
I would not recommend.
Great, good to know. We don't want to do that.
Okay, so is a consensus reducing it to 5 or keeping it as is, but just not doing the postcard? So that would be like, that's not a budget committee. We're just
Yeah.
adjusting
I think
numbers.
If it's not, we're
But
trying,
if we don't spend it, we don't spend it.
if we're not getting that much out of it, definitely because we wanna raise our reserve, right?
Yeah, so the whole goal is to be more frugal in this next budget cycle or year of spending. Okay.
Did it generate as much as it cost?
Okay, is there any other additional items in question?
Am I taking that to 5,000?
I would think the consensus is to leave it at 75.
Oh, I thought we were getting rid of the main.
Down to the 5 cents.
Okay, then drop it to the 5. So that's an additional $2,500 savings from advertising. Okay, so we're at 67,341.
And what was included in professional development of that? Of the recreation budget?
Resilience first aid training, additional LGI certification, and all the turnover in lifeguards that we're gonna have.
Is the resilience first aid training? It's a special certification, is it? It's not a part of like the annual conference, it's something.
Is that one's not, there's not a grant for that one?
No. This is that mental health
Yeah.
recovery training.
What's the mental health recovery thing?
So in the instance that there's an event where someone is doing CPR, having to respond to a significant event or an insignificant one, it's someone on staff that's trained to help them with the mental health recovery of that and processing through that.
Of the
Event of saving someone or responding to an event.
I'm sorry, it's the person who's actually, it's the first aid person who's getting the therapy or the.
It's the responder that's getting
It's
it.
the responder
That's getting
getting
the support.
It's training for the responder to give the support.
No, it's a responder getting the support.
It's a staff member who
Learning
can
how to-
support the responder in processing through.
Is this like a mandatory?
It's not mandatory.
Seeing as how there hasn't been, seems like that one could be cut to me. I don't see. We haven't had that many traumatic events here, and I wouldn't think we would.
Are there resources if we did have a traumatic event? Like, should we
SDAO.
reach out to that organization and
Sure.
have a one-off?
Like the county has a mental health,
I don't know.
they can service through other services out there.
Yeah, your private providers, if they have insurance and provide that.
But like the lifeguards don't get insurance, so they wouldn't have.
But
If
if
there's 16,
if there's,
they have
They would have it
insurance.
from their parents, but not from here.
they can go,
Why would they not do that? That's-
I mean, then they could file workman's comp.
It's just internal service to provide to staff. If the committee doesn't feel that we should be doing that, you could cut $1,000 out of this budget.
is a consensus that we cut 1,000?
No,
No,
Why, Frank?
you just dived in the water and pulled out a dead baby. Would you like to have somebody there that you could talk through with it?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I don't see why it would have to be through this program, but my question, the thing I just was raising, was that the history here. We really haven't had any traumatic events that are of any
That's
significance.
because it's run very well.
Well, then if it's run really well, then maybe we don't need it.
I guess I would also say that this pool employs mostly young people to do these things. They're lifeguards. They're 15 or 16-year-olds. If we are waiting for someone to be able to appropriately address them until they contact their health provider or go somewhere versus having somebody on site that can provide some immediate response, to me, that seems appropriate. I mean, by saying we haven't had an accident, you kind of, bad luck is heading our way. So I guess for $1,000, if we would have somebody here who could, give a 16-year-old the appropriate words for dealing with something traumatic, to me, we do all this other safety training for lifeguards. To me, I feel like it's part of being responsible.
I wonder, I hear what you're saying, and I wonder if we probably already would have systems in place to provide that immediate emotional support, and then the question that comes to my mind is that training enough for that to be the stopping point for that guard if that tragedy were to happen, or would they still have to seek other care
It would depend
anyway?
on the guard.
Potentially that they would need to seek other care. This is within the first 6 hours after an event happens, having someone with that training. Yes.
Would it be one of the core three? Or however many?
Yeah.
Okay, so consensus is keep it.
1,000 was, the suggestion was 1,000 off.
Reduce it by 1,000.
Didn't I hear that?
So I'm
That's
getting-
what we would have to reduce it by to cut that program for someone to go learn that.
Yeah.
Cut it $1,000 off.
Are we? Jean, Alexa, yes, no.
What is the cost to send one person to the program? Do we know that?
$1,000.
How much?
$1,000.
$1,000
That includes
per
all
person.
the, yeah.
Oh.
They were just gonna send one person.
It costs us $1,000, but you're only sending one, so that's $1,000. What am I missing? Why is it 4,000?
It's because there's other
Well,
professional development in that line item.
See
That this
everything
is just
okay.
one.
Oh, okay.
It says resilient first aids or
Okay.
okay, so
Lifeguard instructor and turnover lifeguards. That line item, was 7,700, 8,300. We were able to get by with not spending that much this year because we had a lot of returning lifeguards, which is why we try and recruit them young. But we know that probably, a huge portion of our staff are graduating next year and we're gonna need to hire new guards,
Well,
which is why it's at 4,000.
but everybody says they want to get out of this, walking along the edge of the cliff. So, maybe, in consideration of that, would be reduced.
okay, the consensus I'm seeing from the
consensus is
table is
leaving it.
leaving it. Okay, so let's carry on. 67,341 is our total. So just keep in mind, this resolution that Courtney has presented to you is actually what the board is going to adopt. We're not adopting this resolution. We're just making a motion as a committee on what to approve as a committee. Because we do have Irby not present, the vote, we asked you for details from Department of Revenue on how the vote needs to be documented. So it has to be
At least 6 yeses for it to pass.
Is there any other discussion, I guess?
Is there any other discussion?
So we've been through everything comprehensively, there was nothing, that's it.
Yes, and the motion, the sample motion, we might be adjusting the motion in a way that isn't just about the numbers. It's the motion that we have as a so I don't know if we're at that point where
Sure. So the total adopted budget with this change is 1,389,085. Is that correct? Okay. So I move that the budget committee of the MAC Recreation District approve the budget for the 26-27 fiscal year in the amount of 1,380,981 and property taxes for the 26-27 fiscal year at the rate of 25 cents per 1,000 of assessed value for the permanent rate and 40 cents per 1,000 of assessed value for the local option levy for operating purposes in the general fund. In addition, we would like to see the board working towards meeting 2 months of operating expense reserves in the next budget cycle. Second, we would like to see that the 3% reduction to personnel be used to adjust benefits or expenses related to benefits first, and to continue to make maintaining public aquatic hours a priority. And third, to work on establishing a special purpose fund to segregate grant dollar receipt and expenditures separate from general funds. And that will help improve transparency to our taxpayers relating to which funds tax dollars are paid for and which come from other sources.
Do I hear a second on the motion?
I'll second that.
Oh, that's. Okay, so let's get a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Can you hold your hands up this time for the ayes? So we got. You have the count, 8. All those opposed? 1 nay. Okay.
And our business.
So. So before we adjourn, I do want to say, there's 3 of us returning on the budget committee. Our terms go through 2028. There's 2 members, Steve and William, their terms go to December of 2026. So that we don't encounter what occurred this year with the vacancy, if any budget committee member does not want to either continue their term, or wants to extend their term, please put it in writing to Courtney. At least due diligence by like November, December, so they can properly advertise and try to fill a vacancy. So with that said, can I adjourn the meeting at
Get the motion.
8:08 p.m.
Did she say that?
Yeah.
Well, some progress was
You
made.
just read that.
It's
But yeah.
great progress.
Thank you guys so much. It was good progress.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Tony, thank you for your hard work on this.
Yes.
Yes,
Good
thank
job,
you.
Regina.
Thank you for revising on the flag. Good to stay. Yeah, we'll have to catch up sometime. Because we need that. Yeah, I know. I thought that's what we all said. That's what I was saying. I was like, I'm the one.
Whoa.
You know, but that needs to not ask. Well. Other Cypress and red or city or so, yeah. Yeah. But Cypress to say it was an accident. Okay. Okay. Yeah. No, Olaf was great, except Bill, the disc. So he was bleeding a little bit yesterday. Yeah, so you see, Bill was being a little bad.
Him and Jerry love to do Olaf's Rails. And I tried to get Chris to do them with me and he won't. So
You don't have anything that needs
So
signed
we have-
tonight, huh?
Well, thanks, guys.
I do. Yeah, have a good night.
Yes. Let me go grab that.
Okay, all special.
All right.
I have to discharge a patient. That's what the call was at some point by like 9:30. I haven't put in orders.
We don't.
Starving. My trail mix crunk. Yeah, my mom that delivered without me yesterday wants to go home at 10 o'clock.
First and then I'll. All right, let's convene our special board meeting and I'll start with roll call
At 8:11 p.m.
at 8:11 p.m. Chair Dominguez, absent.
He's on his way.
Oh, is he? Chair McCloskey, present. Secretary Treasurer Lewis,
Present.
Board Member Hollyman,
Present.
Board Member Maynard.
Present.
I'm looking for a motion to adopt the special meeting agenda.
Move we adopt the special meeting agenda.
There a second?
Well, there's like this added, does that say public committee?
That was on the budget committee.
Oh, sorry.
I just have, I just have questions about why our special meeting our special notice had, said that the meeting would include holding a hearing with a complainant and discussing expectations for correspondence. But then it wasn't on the agenda. I just.
Due to the time constraint, we decided that we would move that to our regular board meeting.
For next.
Yeah, that we would be powering through the budget committee meeting and probably everybody wanted to go home before 10 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay.
So still
I'll
looking
second.
for a second.
Sorry. I'm on the right agenda now.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So really all we need is an update on the employment contract for the executive director. And I'll start, Cora and I met Friday and went over the contract changes that the new council has proposed. We have met briefly with Courtney as well and discussed some of the points. Cora volunteered or got drafted to send an email to the attorney with our points of what we were looking for within his draft is a lot briefer than any previous contracts that we reviewed. And so we're waiting then for him to get back to us. Or what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's really all we're waiting to hear from the attorney. We just looked at the benefits that are being received and you know, what was missing from one contract to the next. And just had some questions for the attorney that we're waiting to answer.
So did he start, he's starting over from scratch or readjusting?
Like a sample template of just a generic contract.
And
So
some of the benefits relate back to the employee handbook, and so it's getting him to put that verbiage in.
Yeah.
What else?
and they're like his, it was a very generic template, and so like it included COBRA benefits and things like that we will look to remove since we don't have that currently.
So I'm assuming we'll wait till we get that back from the attorney and then meet again.
You and I.
Yeah.
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 That's all we got.
And it's a 1-year contract or was there a length? on
Yeah,
there?
we've discussed it with Courtney and we're gonna propose the 1-year contract this year.
Do either of you have?
No,
Here comes Ruby.
I know, I was like.
Let's adjourn.
It's like, on my mind.
If there's no more discussion, we're ready to
done.
adjourn.
Well, we could let, in case he has questions.
Yeah. Cora and I were just sharing that we had met and discussed the potential new contract. Yeah.
So it's, Irby arrived at 8:15. Yeah.
Thank you.
Meet adjourned at 8:16.
Yeah. And do you have any questions or anything?
No, did we vote on the budget already?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
No.
It's all done.
Oh, we're good?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
This is the actual board meeting
Oh,
about the employment contract.
okay.
So Cora and I met last Friday and went over some of the new verbiage that the new district council has put into this contract. It's a much shorter contract than the previous ones, and Cora sent an email to district council for some clarification and some more verbiage that we wanted to see in there. So we're waiting to hear back from him and then we'll get together again.
Yeah.
I think the only piece, like living through other executive directors, when there were situations where there was like a termination that needed to happen, was partly how our previous legal counsel drafted new language, was for situations like that to be like cognizant of that. If you have someone who's things appropriately, like being able to terminate the contract was important, because there was difficulty with old contracts and the situations that we were in the past. So that's something I would just.
Do you have any insight onto, we reviewed, Director Wireman's old contract and it was like continuous. It didn't have a term. Do you have any insight into how that was
I
decided
think it
upon?
was also based on like, the 360 reviews, because we were doing those. So there was that possibility, but, there was language in there about, like the 360 review of being able to.
Reviewed annually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even though it was continuous, but I don't know. Yeah. I don't remember anything specific about it not having a time, like an endpoint. Or why.
Did you review that any further today or have any more thoughts on?
I sent you an email earlier just asking you to send me that, wireman, that one that you pulled up.
Yeah. Did you get it?
I haven't checked my email.
Oh,
since I
okay.
did it.
I sent it like a day after.
Oh, did
Yeah.
you? No, I didn't
was,
go back in and,
you know, holding
I
a
thought I'd see it
baby.
tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, one thing that Gina and I discussed. In addition to the 1-year contract is. The possibility of just like a salaried employee. Scenario where there's not a term length. So we asked, the attorney what something like that may look like, but I think that everyone wanted to do the 1-year term length,
Yeah.
so I would just advocate for with like the instability that we're looking at, that having that flexibility built into it would be good, but
So. Was pretty good?
Did you
Yep.
guys have other discussion about the search for like posting or anything?
No, during the next 12 months, no, we were just focused more on the contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked a little bit about that that if maybe would be a good idea to continue, looking for an aquatics based, like post and see what we.
Both can see what we
Yeah.
did.
As we just
Contract.
finished the
Yeah.
budget, I am curious how much that will cost or where we're gonna post it. That would be
Yeah.
something to look into. That's why I was curious if you guys looked into anything.
I did do some Googling and just kind of looking at different. I was looking really to see if there was organizations where people were posting that they were, this is my resume, I'm searching for a job. And there were plenty that you could sign up as an employer and post your job, within aquatic industry, but that would be.
And then the cost.
Like LinkedIn or anything like that, have you done any?
Last time we used, not that. Well, this isn't the one that, Indeed, thank you. That's what we used last time.
Oh.
And they charge a substantial fee, really?
Oh, yeah. I don't remember what it was. I'm sure it's gone.
I'll give you a list of some of what I was looking
Yeah,
at. I was
that's
looking
why I
at
was curious.
aquatic based.
Let the human resources guy do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Send me a list of what you wanna look for.
Well. Okay.
Based on the job description.
Yeah. Is on LinkedIn, do people post when they're searching for employment? Like when
Yes.
you search, you can search by people's.
Oh.
Yeah, and same.
Yeah,
with
not on there.
That's what I was kind of trying to search for to
Yeah,
see
I have
what would be
Indeed.
available.
And we have LinkedIn. So, you can search all that. So.
Yeah, Frank is saying we're ready to adjourn.
Hammer.
Yeah.
So when are we meeting? Are we adding this topic then to our next regular meeting?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
For the end of June,
And what's the date on that one?
the 22nd, I believe.
Okay. I like to verbally throw it out there, so everyone knows their calendar.
You were always the one that asked the teacher if there was any homework for that night.
Oh, yeah, Yes. Oh, yes, I'm in the hospital. Okay.
Courtney, you got anything? No? Meeting adjourned?
At 8:21 PM. Thank you.
I was on the bridge really funny.
What'd you do?
Saying that didn't need me? No.
Chopped your finger off.
No.